You are very welcome. Good morning, everybody, or whatever time of day is appropriate wherever you happen to be located. I'm Michael Dobson, and this is Finding New Career Options in the World of the Future. Now, the previous seminar I'd done, clicking in the wrong direction here. All right, there we go. The previous seminar I did on the future of work was taking a sort of a glimpse as to how science fiction writers have seen the world of the far future, ranging from a world in which an underclass labors, is exploited and labors in the dark, as in George Powell's The Time Machine, down to a future of work that has no work in it, as seen by George Jetson. But that's a century or multiple centuries out. What I'm interested in, or I guess what most of us are interested in, is what do we do with our own careers? And considering that a full career start to finish is maybe 40 years, let's take our time horizon and bring it down so that we'll take a look at the future of work in a more tactical, in a more short-term basis. And with that, I want to make sure, as I said, as a career counselor, I spent a lot of time helping to strategize with people and to figure out their own unique ways that they can best engage in the world of work. And I'll tell you, actually, the secret of having been a career counselor, to be perfectly honest, is that it gave me the opportunity to meet people who did jobs I didn't even know existed. The world of work is bigger, richer, and filled with opportunities that you might not notice, from the limited perspective that we tend to have as individuals. Now, you'll find this webinar is rather data packed, and there's a lot of information on a number of these slides, which is, if you'd like to be able to look at them a little bit more calmly and quietly and dig into them a bit, it's a good reason why you're going to want to have a copy of the webinar. Again, drop me an email, happy to send it out. Now, this collection represents about 5.5 million industrial jobs, and those were all the case in 1980. And to show you how quickly and how dramatically the world of work has shifted on us, by 2017, 3.5 million of those jobs, roughly 2/3 of the total, are gone. If you take a look, most of the metalworking, iron, steel, blast furnace, construction, these classical collection of what had been high-paying, really productive jobs, gone. In the short run, many of them moved overseas, but that's just a pit stop on their way to being automated out of existence altogether. From the turn of the millennium up to 2010, there have been a couple of categories in which there's been growth, and obviously the biggest category of growth in this period has been in IT. Application software, support specialist, system software, network systems, database, systems analysis, and pure research. The second biggest collection of the next category of fastest growing occupations were in health. Now some of these, notice that there's an absence of physicians here. Not that they aren't there, but that's not a fast-growing occupation. It's relatively stable. Personal home care aides, medical assistants, records, IT again, health information, physician's assistants, occupational therapy aid. You can see the list. So this is another big area of growth. The third, once you have dealt with IT and once you have dealt with health, what's left? Desktop publishers, fitness trainers and aerobics instructors, and veterinary staff, technologists, animal caretakers, and technicians. Not much. That's a fairly tight universe of jobs. And notice that for people who don't have the particular skill set or the particular uh, uh, mental orientation, the world of work for many people has shrunk alarmingly. Let's get back to the state of the job market. This is a very long research paper done by the Pew, and I'm going to go through a number of these slides. The complete report has tons of data in it, worth a little bit of a check in here. So let's go through and take a look at some of these issues. First, we know that high levels of technical skill, knowledge, and talent are a good recipe for getting jobs, but more and more and more, high social skills are equally important. And the people who combine the social and the analytical and are capable of working in both, they're going to find higher wages and faster job growth. If the occupation requires more preparation, the likelihood is that the number of jobs in that occupation are growing. So I'm almost retirement age at this point. When my father came out of World War II and went to school on the GI Bill, if you had a high school diploma, you were in good shape. And if you had a bachelor's degree, that puts you significantly ahead of the competition. By the time I went to college, a bachelor's degree was the base. If you had a master's degree, you were way ahead of the competition. Today, you have a master's degree, you're not ahead of the competition, you're with it. We add certificates. Many of you, I mean, given the subject matter here, we look for certification, say, as a PMP or a project management professional. Anything that requires this kind of certification or licensing, good tip, it's a high growth opportunity. Education and health are the two sectors that are growing fastest. That doesn't mean they're just those jobs. Both education and health require, for example, tons of IT professionals. And manufacturing is still shedding workers. And again, that's because of, number one, global supply chain management, but number two, that we're still moving on the path of automation. Many of these jobs are just vacation, making a temporary stop before they go away altogether. Now, in general, when you talk about employment, women, the news for women is generally not good. We already know, I mean, the pay gap between men and women in the same occupations, while it has shrunk, there's no pay equity has not yet been reached. But for once, there's a little bit of good news, and that is that in those high-paying occupations requiring higher social and analytical skills, women are now the majority of workers in those fields. Their wages and their earnings have increased. Again, pay parity has not yet been achieved, but for once we're seeing a real sign of progress. And when it comes to the PMP and similar certifications, if you have a higher level of education, you are also more likely to have job-related certificates or licenses. Feeding back into the more preparation means greater job opportunities. Now, the world of alternative working arrangements is also growing right at the moment. The movement toward work at home has been moving in sort of fits and starts, but in our current environment, it has accelerated tremendously. And one thing that I will predict, and from what I've heard, I know that some organizations are already actively moving, I suspect a number of people will not be returning to the office. Hopefully they'll keep their jobs, but the office seems to be somewhat less necessary. Now, in terms of alternate arrangements, we also have the gig economy. Now, I've been in the gig economy for a very long time, back when they called it freelancing. And it's worked for me. It's got pluses and minuses, but depending on your lifestyle and interests, working out different relationships, more flexible relationships with the world of work is an opportunity. Of course, that doesn't, the realization, of course, is that many people who are in the gig economy are pushed from behind, and it's not really what they want. It is not really the choice and that they would make. But we are sort of breaking the boundary, breaking the box of 5 days, 40 hours, and this kind of flux is likely to continue. What else is going on? I just noticed I have a little question, and somebody asked me if I would please type my email in the chat, which it's let me type it, but it won't let me send it. I will do it again. It is on the slides. I will make sure that that is done before the end of the end of the program. And just again, Michael at dobsonsolutions.com. If you remember my name, just add solutions, and you've got my email. Now let's take a look. Now we're going to move. We've done Pew Charitable Trust. And now let's take a look at some research done by probably the top executive recruiting firm there is, which is Robert Half Associates. Now he's identified from his research, and his team interviews lots and lots and lots of employers. He said there are 5 transformational forces going on. And while some of them have negative implications for the job market, they don't all do. And that new technology creates opportunities. At the same time, it kills others. And the 5 are process automation, artificial intelligence, augmented, virtual, and mixed realities, cloud computing and services, and the Internet of Things. Now, the last 2 are generally well known as big trend areas. But let's take a look at all of these in a bit more detail. We'll start with process automation. We're talking about the continued death of manufacturing jobs. 40% of the tasks people do now will be automated within 10 years. But what's interesting is that, well, if you ask executives in a lot of businesses, you say, do you have a lot of work you need to get done that isn't getting done? Yes. Why? Our employees are busy. If all the work of those employees could be automated, would you need to fire them? No, we could just start on the backlog. If employees don't have to perform routine work, they're potentially more valuable, not less. And in particular, even if routine work is gone, the social, analytical, human skills matter. I was getting a ride home from the airport with an Uber driver a month or so ago, and we're having a chat. And I was sort of interested in asking him how he felt about self-driving cars. And he chuckled and he said, it's not going to affect me at all. And I was sort of surprised that he's driving a car. He said, yeah, but that's not the value I bring. I've got my own network of clients, he said. They call me all the time because I'm the one who can help people who have some physical issues into the car. I know them by name. I give them this personal service. He says, the driving, that's easy. The other, people still need it. So I thought it was very creative. Social and analytical skills matter even if the actual technical work, the actual mechanical work can be performed automatically. Artificial intelligence. Even though there's a lot of fear of the effect of AI, they expect now, Robert Half says, some losses in some sectors, but not across the board. And why? Because the rather than assume that we're going to get the sort of AI out of a science fiction movie, open the pod bay doors, hell, I can't do that. That we're more likely to enter into partnerships or symbiotic relationships with AI, so that we are sort of not quite cyborged, but we have that relationship where we have the backup brain. There are days I already think I've outsourced half my memory to Wikipedia, and I don't have a problem with that. Gaming applications are the first areas to use to really invest in augmented, virtual, and mixed realities. Actually, it's not entirely true, because there's a lot of evidence that whenever new technology and new concepts are developed, the two sectors in which they are most likely to be used first are military applications and pornography. Both of those tend to go at sort of the leading edge. Gaming follows close behind, but we have only begun to figure out all the ways that this kind of approach is going to enter the job market and deal with our relationships to the world. And nothing, no segment of work or life is going to be untouched. And now the great opportunity is that it's obvious this is a big deal, but it is so new, so radical, so different that nobody knows what's going on. That, for you, is an opportunity. A creative look at where you can fit in, how you can use it. What you want to do is go where the other people aren't and figure out what is available. Cloud computing services the Internet of Things, not new trends at all, but continuing to go. And the transformational effects of this are really only beginning. We're at the beginning. We can get ideas about where it might go. We probably know more about how these two are going to affect us than we know about how augmented, virtual, and mixed realities are going to affect us. It's a big thing. I just have a friend of mine named Greg Benford, who's a fairly well-known science fiction writer, just sent me an ebook of his latest, or pre-publication copy of his latest book with Larry Niven. And that's one of the big things throughout: the effect of augmented, virtual, mixed realities, cloud computing, and trying to get a sense of the effect of technology as we go forward. In the future, Half tells us the best high-paying job categories that you should be looking at if you're in IT are mobile applications development, data architecture, user experience and user interface designer, systems analyst. And notice, especially those last three, we're talking about the combination of high technical skills and social skills. It's the ability of people in IT to talk with, understand, and meet the needs of people who don't really have a clue what you do, but do know what they want. This kind of communication is going to be increasingly valuable. And related to IT is the management of data, big data. This is my wife is a HR executive with a consulting firm that is one of their big lines of business is forensic accounting, and that is going through and analyzing financial data in cases of bankruptcies and in litigation. Litigation support, e-discovery. This, if you are trying to find out what's going on in a business and they say, here's our discovery, here's 20 million documents done electronically, how do you sort them? How it takes not just technical skill, but a real subject matter understanding and some intuition. Business intelligence and marketing analytics. Marketing has generally, and I can tell you this as somebody who's been a marketing director, a lot of it in practice. We all talk science and we all talk observations, but most of it is gut. And a lot of the data that you get a surprising amount of it is made up. I remember once I was talking to somebody who worked for a marketing consulting group, and somebody went down the hall and said, "What's going on?" He says, "What are you doing today?" He says, "Well," he says, "I'm staff. I got to sit in and pretend to be somebody in a focus group." So it just tells you what's going on. The ability to analyze and draw valuable knowledge out of this, again, a sort of a complicated hybrid skill. The other categories that half expects to grow, weirdly, member services and enrollment management. It's not just for clubs and organizations, but if you think of things like health insurance or AAA, or this is a big issue that supports the ability to do good customer relations management and good support. Executive assistants. Real executive assistants at the highest levels, they make big money and they do really strong work. Business analysts, again, the interface between the subject matter of the business and frequently the IT and project management implications, and then compliance managers in different regulatory environments. So, with the rest, let's talk about how to prepare yourself. We know the categories. The first are the foundational skills. I spend a lot of time as a career counselor trying to help people also orient and build their lives so that they have these foundational skills. You want to work on whichever side of the high-tech, high-touch you're not as strong on. Project management, I should tell you, is part of almost every job. Whether you need something as formal as the PMBOK or a more casual style, it matters. Critical thinking, analytical thinking, the ability to embrace or work with change. Your communication, persuasion, and leadership abilities, another way in which social skills have to be just as important as the actual technical ones. The ability to understand, work with, and deal diversity and cultural intelligence. And a big part of that is simply the mental change to say, I am not the baseline. And we tend to measure other people by the distance from us when and assume that we are the foundation for that. And no, we really shouldn't do that. I'm a big believer that there are universal occupations. No matter what your job is, sales is something you have to do. Negotiation is something you can do. And whether we wear the helmet and the big coat or not, we're all in the firefighting business because we all have to learn the effective how to do crisis management. All of that includes flexibility and the ability to reinvent yourself on the fly, because even though we do not know with certainty what the future will bring, I will tell you with certainty it's going to be different and have surprises. There's an old J.P. Morgan joke who was asked to predict what was going to happen in the stock market. He says, I'd be glad to do that. He said, I will tell you, it will fluctuate. And that we know. Now, I'm also a big believer in trying to find contrarian solutions, and sometimes the way to get ahead is go where people aren't. And there's a running joke, oh, that's as obsolete as buggy whip manufacturing. Well, I looked on Amazon. You want a buggy whip? You can get a brand new one. Somebody's still making them. A dying industry isn't necessarily completely dead. And if there's not enough for a huge market, there are sometimes enough to support a business and to provide at least some good, high-paying jobs. And frankly, the competition tends to be a little bit lower. More and more, we are finding a gap. Management has had the upper hand so long. You see the second bullet, only half of employees believe their employers will reward loyalty. That's why workers who are actually engaged are only making up about a third of the workforce. Workers feel loyalty to the job, but not really to the employer, because they don't believe the employer will be loyal to them. And that's why even if you have a job, a corporate job, and you're good and you want to do this, you need to act like you're self-employed. Now, the first piece of advice I wish I'd gotten at a younger age, nothing makes work more pleasant than having money in the bank. The more, you might love your job, you might not want to quit, but everybody has bad days. And if you know that you can walk away, you don't really feel as much need to do so. So a good financial foundation, build it early. No matter how much you love your job, no matter how much you want to stay in it, invest regular time in job hunting, at least 5 to 10% of your time. The time to hunt for a job is not when you need it, it's when you don't. It doesn't matter. If you get nothing else, you still know what the market is like, and more you develop your network of contacts. The key book on it, you mostly have a copy. Many people buy it, few people read it, and even fewer people follow the advice. But it is good advice, and that is, of course, the classic, what color is your parachute? Build your network. Build your brand identity. And understand that you stay ahead of trends and technology, but not too far ahead. So with that, we've covered the world of work and and I will open it up for questions.
Great. Thanks so much, Michael. Yep, any questions that folks have, please feel free to post in the chat or the Q&A function of WebEx. I did post Michael's email in both the Q&A and the chat, and it will be on the final screen as well. I'll check back for questions, but just a few reminders in the meantime. The PDU code for the webinar will be sent to you via email, and if you would like to become a premium member of the Great IT Professional, you can visit our subscribe page at greatpro.org/subscribe. Premium membership is $199 per year. It does allow you unlimited anytime access to the library of content, which includes 1,000 PDU hours. As I mentioned earlier, you can also try out our mobile app for free at greatpro.org/mobile. We are running some specials in June, so please feel free to check those out. Just checking back here. I don't see any questions.
And you can always send the questions by email or later on. Sometimes the questions occur to you later. So don't feel that the end of this has to be the end of our discussion.
Yep, sounds great. Yes, please feel free to reach out to Michael. Again, his email is on the screen, but one did pop up. There you go.
Oh, I do see one question. How does age impact the new workforce? Well, there's more and more, with the speed of change, people above a certain age are presumed not to have the experience or intuitive understanding of new technology. And so the disadvantages, as we say, as the saying goes, okay, boomer, we sometimes find ourselves, so age is a bigger and bigger issue. Part of this is cosmetic. Part of it is making sure that you stay up to date and fresh. But you do have to know that overcoming the perception that age means technical incompetence is something that really does require effort. That's unfortunate, but it is the reality. If there's anything else, it's great.
And good.
Yep.
One observation, I don't really think a question, regarding augmented, virtual, and mixed realities, but this is starting to get some legitimate traction. For example, Facebook, which is the owner of Oculus, is using technology as a plan for the construction of their new data centers. I don't know if you have any thoughts on that, but.
Well, as I said, we're at the beginning of this. There are some interesting things going on right now, right this minute. But my belief is that this is going to be such a dramatic change that we might be able to predict the next 1 or 2 steps, but we're not going to be able to get any further than that because who knows what's going to happen. Legal solutions industry, we sort of covered that earlier. Staffing, remember that's the combination. High touch, high tech, high social skills, and high technology skills. And don't forget the possibility of a partnership, this idea of partnership with AI. As we start to develop better tools in that area, we will integrate those. But our responsibility is going to be increasingly on the social side, and as AI develops especially, the actual technical competence will become less central to the operation.
Great. Thanks so much, Michael, and thanks so much for being here today. Thanks, everyone, for joining. Thanks for your questions. If you have additional, again, please feel free to reach out to Michael. So that does conclude our webinar for today. On behalf of Michael and CAI's Great IT Professional, thanks, everyone, for joining us. We hope to see you again at future events, and we hope you are able to check out some of Michael's other webinars online. So thanks, everyone. I hope everyone enjoys the rest of their day.
And thank you all for coming.